to stitch the sky to distant shore. The waiting ends as morning nears, and opens wide the harbor door. Dawn arrival on the golden tide, where shadows flee the coming day.
As one approaches the peak of Mount Estoliana, in that hour just preceding first light, where the darkness is near absolute, yet kind enough to offer the mere hint of what approaches, combined with the reflected glow of the sun's heavenly neighbor, one can still see enough to walk with sureness, climbing the steps carved by time, deity, and the pious. In the coldest months, the silvery glow of one's breath shimmers in the competing illumination of a setting moon and the rising of the incipient sun, and the supplicant, guided by moonlight and the promise of day, makes the trek, pondering their connection to deity, the symbolism of this climb, reflected heavily in the expectant morning yet to be born. To those who make this journey, the rewards are twofold and beyond description. The glorious palette of colors brought to life by deity's paintbrush across the panorama of Estolia, and more critically, the illumination of the spirit, divine inspiration and guidance brought to clarity through this act of tradition and faith. Key, inscription on the mossy rock.
The three girls shared a bunk room below deck, 2 bunk beds against opposite walls. The elderly couple occupied the main stateroom, the crew, their own quarters beyond. Camilla mentioned they would arrive sometime around dawn. The creak of wood and the crack of wind in the sails kept Charlotte awake. She was glad at least to have a bunk bed to herself. She pulled on the simple white dress she'd set out the night before, ran her brush through her hair, and slipped out of the bunk room. In the outer lounge, a slightly lighter band of sky showed to one side. It was almost dawn.
It is not always possible, but when it is, we try to make sure that those who are visiting Estolia for the first time see it first by the light of dawn.
A gruff voice spoke in the darkness. Charlotte turned to find the shadowy form of the older man.
"Will we arrive by dawn?"
she asked. He approached, joining her where she stood looking out at the line of barely brighter sky.
I believe we will. We might not be at the dock quite yet, but we will be close.
"Is Spanish the language of Estolia?"
she asked.
No,
He said.
we have our own distinct language and our own written characters. There are a lot of unique elements to our culture.
She turned her back on the now clearly visible horizon and sat in one of the chairs in the lounge. Percival followed her example and sat across from her.
"Like what?"
She asked.
The biggest one is our religion. We are a faith-based people.
"What faith?"
She asked. Her father had opinions about religion, about the church, and about anyone who made too much of it either way, and she had grown up half listening to them across the dinner table.
Estolian,
He said, smiling.
We are not humble. We name our faith the same as our nation.
"I have never heard of it."
She said.
We are at a transition point in our nation.
He said.
You will therefore be here during some of our festivities.
"So, I will learn a little bit more about your faith?"
She asked.
Yes, you will.
"Are many of the citizens members of your religion?"
All Estolians are believers. Those who find they cannot live the edicts of the faith tend to choose to live elsewhere.
"It will not be a problem that Laura and I are visiting, but are not members of your faith?"
Oh no, though I dare say the odds are in favor of your finding yourself drawn in. You are very welcome to visit regardless of what connection you make or do not make with the Estolian faith.
They were tacking into a large natural harbour when the sun crept over the horizon. The land was lush and golden in the early light. Laura and Camilla were both awake now, and all 3 girls were enjoying the brisk breeze. Percival and his wife Marina were standing together on the deck. She stood in front of him, leaning back against him, and they smiled at one another, oblivious to the outside world. Charlotte could not remember ever seeing any warmth between her parents while her mother was alive. She took a breath. Only when she looked away from them did she realize how much it had moved her, and turned her gaze for the first time toward Estolia. At the quay, 4 carriages stood in formation, and there was nothing informal about the party assembled to receive them. Camilla whispered in her ear,
"You will love my family, especially Reggie."
Charlotte's cheeks grew warm. Camilla's intent to do some matchmaking could not have been more obvious.
I thought you said I would like Reggie?
Laura asked archly. Camilla laughed at that.
Of course.
The Amador nudged against the wooden piers, and there was a flurry of activity, as crew and dock hands alike fell to work securing her lines. The first to disembark from the Amador was the elderly couple. Camilla linked arms with Laura and Charlotte and escorted them both to Estolian soil. She was leading them toward the gathered dignitaries when she jerked to a halt. Her face went ghostly white and then painfully red. Charlotte looked from Camilla to the man she was staring at, standing slightly apart from the others. He was short, perhaps only a couple of inches taller than Camilla. His mousy brown hair was receding. His scalp glistened with sweat, despite the chill of the early hour. His light brown eyes were fixed on Camilla's beauty and hadn't moved. Charlotte waited. There it was again. The look Percival and Marina had worn for each other on the deck. The short man on the pier had it. So did Camilla. The pause lasted only a few moments, though it felt considerably longer. Camilla moved forward again, toward the man at the head of the group. She glanced back once at the short man standing to the side, then looked away, as though she had to make herself do it.